This is a slightly older trade from a few weeks ago, but I thought this was a very useful trade to show beginners the under 2.5 goal strategy. This isn't going to be a complete breakdown of the under 2.5 goal strategy. I'm going to have an ultimate under 2.5 goal strategy video coming out in a couple of weeks, so keep your eye out for that. So back to this video for the under 2.5's goal trade between Everton and Burnley. I'm going to show you the thought process I had in selecting this game and show you the live trade itself. For anyone completely unfamiliar with the under 2.5 goal strategy, I'll briefly describe what it is. It is simply placing a back bet on the under 2.5 goal market on Betfair's exchange, and as time commences, as long as there's not a goal, the price will contract from here all the way down. And at some point in the game, you will place a corresponding lay bet on the under 2.5's goal market, and because you have backed at a higher price than you have laid at, you'll be guaranteed a profit on this match. The fundamentals of the strategy is that you will win if there isn't a goal during the period you have the trade open, and you'll cash out for a loss if there is a goal in the period where you've got the trade opened. So you don't want goals to be scored for a period of time in the game, and that will guarantee you a profit. In terms of match selection, you're looking for a game in which there's likely not going to be many goals in the opening period of the game. Most commonly, you see this trade taking place in the opening 20 minutes of the game. So when I was looking for matches and deciding to choose this match, the first point of call I look at is the pre-match stats. I go onto Soccer Stats website and have a brief overview of the team's performance in recent games. And from right here, if I'm seeing that the previous matches are having lots of goals in the opening 20 minutes, then immediately a red flag goes off and I move on to the next match. Looking here at the goal times, Everton hadn't scored at home at any point during the first half. And likewise, Burnley also hadn't scored any point during the first half of the games they've played away from home. The reason I've broken it down into home and away is because Everton are playing at home in this match. And teams tend to perform not exactly the same when they're playing either at home or away, they'll perform slightly differently. This Everton and Burnley game was a few weeks ago now from when I'm recording this video, and at the time we was only 3 games into the Premier League season. Being 3 games into the Premier League season was obviously not particularly ideal, as there's not an enormous amount of data to go off. And this is why I'm not really a fan of trading this early on in the season. However, I do need to trade, and you're going to have to base your opinions on why you're trading a match on something. And this something was this data, however limited that might be. After checking Soccer Stats, the next thing I check is the XG, because although the teams haven't scored in the first half, that isn't to say that the teams aren't playing well in the first half. They could be creating lots of chances, having lots of shots on target, but just getting rather unlucky to not get a goal. So that's why it is important to check XG, not just goals. As I just mentioned, teams tend to perform slightly differently when they're playing at home and away. But as these teams have not played many games at home and away, I decided to look at all the home and all the away games. Not ideal, obviously, but again, I have to base my opinions on match on something. And you know, it's still the same 11 players when they're playing at home and away. It's not perfect, but it's better than trading the game with no information at all, which is the only other alternative really. If we do look at Everton's only home game against Southampton and look at the XG chart, you can see not only did they not score in the entire first half, but it was also creating not very much in the first half. And the majority of their chances were created in the second half of the game. This trend was somewhat continued in the Leeds game. This was obviously away. They did get a goal in the first half, or in the 30th minute mark. However, what you can see is that before that goal, in that opening 30 minutes, they was creating basically nothing in the game. And in the only other match against Brighton, this similar trend occurred where they was creating very little in the opening 30 minutes of the match. So I appear to have seen a trend here, where Everton was starting games slowly and building up their confidence over time to have strong second halves and try to win the game in the second half. As for Burnley now, they were pretty hopeless in their away game against Liverpool, which is to be expected. Being one of the better teams in the league, they did concede in the 15-minute mark, which is obviously something to note. In the Burnley versus Leeds match, there was almost no action in the opening 30 minutes. That would be a dream under 2.5 goal market match. And finally, interestingly, in the Brighton match, Burnley scored pretty much in the first minute of the game, which obviously in the under 2.5 trade is the worst possible outcome you can ever have. I'm not going to lie, I'm not feeling perfect about seeing that data. However, being right at the start of the game is an interesting thing. I don't want to say in some sense it was a lucky goal, but sometimes it is a bit fortunate to score early on. I decided to watch the game back. The goal was from a set piece, it was a header from about 2 yards away out. There was probably a foul on the Brighton defender too. I'd be much more concerned if they had started on the front foot, and broke Brighton down and played through them and got a goal that way. But I'm not going to paint over it too much. This is obviously data which isn't ideal for the under 2.5 trade, and you're never going to find an opportunity where every single thing lines up. Sometimes you're going to have data which isn't backing up your theory, and this is where you have to rationalise and think which of this data is more important and what you're going to use to create your opinion about. And I think Everton, under Benitez, are not going to be naive enough to concede a set piece and then to concede from the set piece itself in the opening couple of minutes of the game. I could be wrong about that, and trading is trading, things go wrong all the time, early goals can happen, but given what I know about Burnley just from previous seasons in the Premier League, I know how they play. They're not going to try and get out of traps that quickly and get them early goals. Except for just the XG, there is another stat that I like to look at to determine how well the team starts, and that is the attack momentum. I've discussed this in a previous video on my channel before. This is just a simple graphical representation of how much a team is attacking or being attacked against for the duration of the game, but we can focus on the opening 20 minutes or so of the game itself. On screen I'm showing the attack momentum for all of Everton's and Burnley games so far in the season up to the game in question. My eyes will gleaming a little bit here because it looks like neither team attacked so well in those opening 20 minutes or so I'm not concerned here about opening the under 2.5 goal trade. Next I have a little go at modelling what might happen with the price itself during the game. So I'm showing on screen now Soccer Mystic, which is a functionality of BetAngel software. If you're unfamiliar with Soccer Mystic or sports trading software in general, I do have a video on my channel about this which you can check out, and I do recommend sports trading software if you've not got it. I'm not affiliated with any sports trading software, this is just a personal recommendation. It's just a powerful tool which can help you become a better trader. So I'm using the Soccer Mystic graph to estimate what the price will be if there was no goal after 30 minutes in this game. Normally I tend to look towards the 20-minute mark, but for this one I was quite confident that there weren't going to be goals for perhaps the entire half. To play it a bit safe, I'm going to look around the 30-minute mark. So BetAngel here is showing the current starting price, so it's be about 1.86, and if there is no goals in this game after 30 minutes, the price on the under 2.5 goal market would be about 1.32. I then played around by putting a few goal times in Soccer Mystic to show me a price estimate of what might happen if a goal is scored in the opening 30 minutes. So I put a goal in at the 10-minute mark and the 20-minute mark, averaged out the price between the two, which you can see on screen. I then inputted the data I'd collected from BetAngel for both the win scenario and the loss scenario. The profit and loss calculator will show me my expected profit if there was no goal in the opening 30 minutes and I cashed out for a profit, and what would happen if there was a goal and I cashed out for a loss. So I have my expected win value and my expected loss value. And the final thing I did was I inputted the expected profit and expected loss value into a strike rate calculator that I've created, so I could determine what strike rate I would need for this trade to be profitable in the long run. And as you can see on screen, for this trade to be profitable, I need it to be successful around 46% of the time, in fact just a little over 46% of the time. If you're interested in using the spreadsheets that I've created for both the profit and loss calculator and the strike rate calculator, I'll leave a link to them in my Patreon down below. You could probably create these spreadsheets yourself, and I recommend doing so, but you can also use mine in the link below, and that would really help support the channel. All the donations from Patreon will be invested back into my Betfair account to increase my trading balance and hopefully make better content videos for you to watch. So I decided to enter the under 2.5 goal market. As you can see, the price had steamed in with all the messing around I was doing on Soccer Mystic trying to record this video. This was obviously, a little bit unfortunate that I hadn't got in there beforehand, but it is what it is. I decided to think about it a little bit more. Was it still valuable to place this trade? I decided that it was still worth placing the trade and decided to place my bet. On screen now you can see me fumbling around on BetAngel, trying to enter at the best price possible. Not the perfect demonstration of how to enter a trade, but I got there in the end. I got about £14 match. I was expecting to try and get £20 match based on the calculations I'd done in the profit and loss calculator. But £14 isn't bad. I could have tried to get another £6 match, but I thought the price had moved far enough down that I was getting a bit on edge about backing more at this lower price. So I thought £14 was fine. And as you can see, I was going to start the match already in profit, which is obviously a nice little bonus to have. The clip presumes here, and we're about 8 minutes into the game. You can see the under 2.5 goal market price had come down to about 1.59, and we was able to cash out here for a £1.44 profit. That's nice of course, because it would be exactly 10% of my stake, my £14 stake. I wasn't going to do that yet because I was targeting the 30-minute mark, remember. This is just to show you that I'm actively tracking the game as well, because I'm not just going to go 30-minute mark, that's my exit point no matter what happens. You know, if I'm watching this game and I'm starting to see that one team or both teams are really going for the game from the off, then I just pull the trade out, cash out for whatever it was, you know, a small profit or a small loss, and get on with it. Because there's only so much pre-match research that you can do, but your eyes don't deceive you. If you start watching the game and it's not going how you planned, you get things wrong sometimes. Sometimes it's just best to just get out there as quick as possible. But I'm showing on screen now the attack momentum. You can see it wasn't really a good start by either team. I was also watching this game live on the TV, as well as looking at the stats, getting as much information as I can just to make sure I'm not being deceived by my own psychology, thinking things are happening which weren't actually happening. The attack momentum graph reassured me that my opinion of the game being a poor, rubbish game was to some extent validated. So the trade resumes around 20 minutes in. I thought that Burnley was starting to get on top of the game. This wasn't translating in chances created or XG at the minute, but I did think that they were applying more pressure, so I was starting to get a bit worried. So yeah, we're about 20 minutes in and the price is 142. Burnley were the better team. I thought they could get a goal here. I decided to leave it a couple more minutes to see what would happen. A few minutes later, Burnley were still applying a bit of pressure. Everton looked a bit weak at the back, a bit shaky. I initially had thought to try and get out of this trade around the 30-minute mark, but now I was getting a little bit anxious. My eyes weren't backing up my pre-match data. I thought a goal could come here in this half. Again, thinking back at those XG statistics, Everton did score away in that 30-minute mark, so I decided to exit the trade here. As you can see on BetAngel there, I'm exiting out. I exited out in 2 chunks of 7 to take apart. I'm not entirely sure why I did that. But yeah, I exited out at 134 on 1.33, and that gave me a £5.75 trade profit. And I could hedge that out for around £4.30, and in fact that is what I do. I hedge it out pretty much straight away for a £4.30 profit there, which £4.30 off a £14 stake, that's a 30% return on investment. That's a pretty good return for the under 2.5 goal market strategy. So I'm fairly pleased with that outcome there. A goal didn't end up coming in that opening 30 minutes, so I could have gone all the way to 30 minutes, but I trusted myself. I trusted my reading of the game, and I'm happy that I've cashed out. There wasn't actually a goal for the entire first half of the game, but interestingly, fascinatingly for this video, in the second half there in fact was 4 goals, and Everton won the game 3-1. Why I say that's interesting is because if I placed a simple outright bet using all of my information on the under 2.5 goal market, I would have lost my entire stake. But the great thing about trading is that you're making a profit regardless of the outcome of the match, and even though the under 2.5 goals market is ultimately settled as a loss, because I've placed both back bets and lay bets on the under 2.5 goals market, I netted a £4.30 profit, and that's a really good outcome. Remember, I'm going to make an under 2.5 goal strategy video coming out soon. I'll go into the strategy in complete detail, and I'll see you in the next video.